In this lesson, we're going to take a look at volume, both what it is and how to measure it and how to calculate it. So the very first thing we should do is define what volume actually is. Now don't let this confuse you. Volume is just the amount of space. Okay? Now that's another way of saying how big an object is. So if we have this marker, it takes up an amount of space equal to about a centimeter in diameter and about 10 centimeters long. And we can multiply that together and we get a cubic centimeter or several cubic centimeters of volume. This is maybe a hard shape to get the volume of initially because it's round and it's got this weird point on it. Okay? So if we think about this in terms of just a block, if I have a block that is 1 unit on each side, 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit, then if I just looked at it from a top-down view, I would have a 1 unit by 1 unit square. And from a side view, I'd have a 1 unit by 1 unit square. But since I'm in 3 dimensions, I have a 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit cube, and I can find its volume. I call that 1 cubic unit, and if that unit happened to be centimeters, then it would be 1 cubic centimeter. That would be a 1 cubic centimeter cube. Now if I stacked a whole bunch of those together so that I had a square or a rectangle that when I looked down was 10 centimeters by 4 centimeters, then I could see that I would have 10 squares did a bad job on that. 10 squares this way, 4 squares that way, and that would get me 40 square centimeters. If this was then all 2 centimeters deep, then I would have another layer of 10 centimeters, 10 square centimeters on top of that, but they would all be 1 centimeter deep, and so I would actually have 40 cubic centimeters, right? And that's just telling me that I can find the volume of a rectangle or a rectangular solid. Rectangular solid is equal to length times width times height, or A times B times C, however you want to look at it. That's true for our rectangular solids, and my unit is going to be a cubic unit. So whatever my unit of length is cubed. So generally for us, that will be centimeters cubed. You might occasionally see meters cubed. That's for solids. Solids can actually be tricky to find the volume of unless they're a regular rectangular shape like this. Because when you try to smash solids together, they have a definite shape and they won't necessarily fit together. A liquid, on the other hand, it takes the shape of its container, so it will be easy to find the volume of, but we're going to use a different tool for that, right? I could use a ruler to measure length and width and depth. To measure solids, I've got to either calculate it or I've got to do the water displacement method with a graduated cylinder. So a graduated cylinder is called graduated because it's got markings on it. Those markings are called graduations, and what they do is they tell me the depth of fluid in there, and they usually have this marked in milliliters. So if this is 1 milliliter and 2 milliliters, these are the graduations. That's why it's called a graduated cylinder. And so what we do is we put a liquid in here and we see how deep it goes. So if the liquid goes up to here, we could say, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 milliliters of liquid. And that's how much volume it occupies. That's how much space it takes up. So it's got a 5 milliliter volume. Now what's cool about milliliters and cubic centimeters is 1 milliliter is the same as 1 cubic centimeter. You might also see that written as cc for cubic centimeter. Now if I give you a practice problem and I'm like, hey, find me the volume of a prism that has a width of 10 and a depth of 3 and a height of 5 centimeters, then all you have to do is go 10 centimeters times 3 centimeters times 5 centimeters and get 150 cubic centimeters, right? So don't make this harder than it is. It's pretty straightforward math, right? We're just multiplying a few numbers together. Keep track of your units and understand that volume is describing an amount of space that something occupies.